I saw, they'd say something.
If they felt what I felt,
If they'd seen what I've seen,
if they knew who I knew,
then surely they'd feel what we're feeling.
maybe they just don't know.
Maybe they don't want to know.
Maybe they would care. They just haven't been shown.
Maybe I didn't tell them.
Maybe I didn't show them. Maybe we didn't.
Teach them.
Hello, and welcome to Grounds for Peace, a Faith Unfiltered podcast series grounded in faith, community, and courage, where we explore what it looks like to follow Jesus, the peaceful one, and engage in vital conversations that take a hard and hopeful look at peacemaking in today's world. I'm Linda Stanbridge, and I'm here with Blake Smith and Monear Shaer. Monear is a Palestinian American filmmaker, impact organizer, and public speaker dedicated to telling stories that challenge mainstream narratives, reclaiming the humanity of communities too often reduced to headlines and statistics. Monear brings a unique perspective to his work, drawing from his own lived experiences and family memories to tell stories that bring the complexities of geopolitics back to the human. Over the past 2 years, Monear, at only 28 years old, has managed to self-coordinate his own nationwide screening tour, bringing his debut documentary, Gaza Is Our Home, to over 90 programs in universities, community spaces, faith institutions, and cultural venues across the United States. These programs extend beyond traditional screenings, incorporating extended dialogue and community engagement, along with exclusive live calls with family on the ground, providing audiences with deeper understandings, reflections, and sustained involvements. Thank you, Monear, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here to share this space and to be welcomed into a community like the one you guys have been building here with the community of Christ and with your incredible work.
Well, I'm so grateful to have you here, and I'm excited about what we're kind of building with some Community of Christ events that you've done in the past. And we'll talk a little bit later about you joining us at the Peace Forum coming up in October, which we're excited about. And I'm thrilled to introduce you to the listeners and share a little bit about your documentary, Gaza Is Our Home.
Yeah, and I would just add, first of all, thanks for letting me sit in on this. I know the two of you guys have had conversations before, and this is something of incredibly growing interest and something I'm really proud that we were able to spend some time with on Faith Unfiltered. So, Monear, thank you for your work. We're going to talk a little bit about impressions, but wow, that's... People who know me know I'm not often speechless. It's a very powerful film. I don't think anybody needs to argue for the fact that when we put a name and a face or faces with an issue, it really begins to create opportunities for transformation. And there are those, of course, who are closed off to that. And I don't know how, but can create a wall. But in general, most people, when they see that, they are forever changed. And I can say that just as a quick response to the film, that I am forever changed. So thank you for your work, and thanks for being with us today.
I'm so humbled to hear the impact that it may have had with you and with any viewers in general. I often say this, and I want specifically for you, Blake and Linda here, and anyone who ends up getting to spend the time to hear our family story, that I always say, and I reference when I'm screening the film on the tour, that this is an invitation into my family. And its purpose is to allow you all and everyone to see our loved ones in Gaza as their own. And that we all have family there. And so welcome to our family, Blake, and I truly mean that. And I'm excited to hopefully come and see you in Michigan, right? Are you guys both in Michigan? I know Linda's in Michigan.
I'm in Chicago area, so
Even
come
better.
to Chicago anytime. We've got a guest room.
Yes,
Yes.
that's amazing. Okay, sign me up.
So put that on part of your tour, right?
We're
Guaranteed.
just around the lake.
I'll get into that a little bit. I had been actually hoping to at the Gene Siskel Center in Chicago. They'd been hoping to host me a while back, but it's chaotic managing a tour with
Anything I can do to help from that side, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Okay, well, you're going to hear from my amazing new assistant Neil Shaer. She'll maybe get that rolling soon for coming fall and winter tour.
I hope you do have the opportunity to do that. And Community of Christ has such a unique family. We are such a unique community, global community, and such important connections that we share. And I think that is sort of why they'll especially appreciate your work. As you mentioned, it's an invitation to your family, and it does feel that way when you watch a film. Because there are so many family clips and the phone calls and the pictures, it really does feel like an invitation to your family. I think for me, that's really what made it special. I was telling Blake before he logged on that I think what I really took away, I mean, lots of things, but one thing to me that was special about this story was that there is such a focus on the beautiful aspects and really what's at risk. I think a lot of times when we're looking at justice issues, we get so focused on what's wrong and what needs to be fixed, and we really want to correct things. And in that, we miss some of the most beautiful aspects of what's at risk of being lost. And so seeing the pictures of the family parties, and I think there were some wedding photos, saw some photos of, I think, your family's, on vacation and it's sort of seaside. I think so many people have not seen that side of Gaza, especially, and what it was truly like. And I mean, almost a paradise. So I live in Michigan, right? And I'm kind of seaside. We're on a really big lake. And so I have a high opinion. But as I'm watching these videos, and I think maybe this was a different clip that you sent me, Monear, of your family. But as I'm watching all these kids playing in the lake, I'm like, this is just like when my kids are at the lake, and it's kind of vast and the water ends at the horizon and the sun is there and everybody's just playing, and it's beautiful, and it's a universal experience. I just think so many people have not seen that and been able to make that connection of just these are people having the same beautiful experiences that we all hope for, and the amazing culture that's lost. I really felt like this film in particular highlighted that for me. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course. I think I'd like to begin, honestly, by framing this episode based on inviting everyone into my shoes, into the story of my family here on a more intimate level. The production of this film is significant in every stretch of the imagination. I never conceived of having the capacity to make a documentary. I never wanted to be a documentary filmmaker. That was not my idea. It began as a notification on my phone 2 weeks into the nightmare my family was facing. I got a notification that came up. It said, "Do you remember your trip to Gaza?" It's like one of those iPhone auto-collected, like, remember your trip to, when, let's say you go on vacation. And it was like it was taunting me. On my phone, when I went in 2021, that was the last time I was able to go to Gaza. And before 2021, it was 10 years prior. That was the last time my family went to visit. I grew up fully Americanized, like fully American. Like, I mean, I love my country here. My mom and dad were both born in Gaza. My dad is a professor and has been traveling the country teaching students in America for his whole life. I had the treasure that was on my phone that reminded me, hey, do you remember your trip? Of course, I remembered my trip, but I'm like, that was the most prized possession I've ever had, is those photos and videos on my iPhone. And anytime I'd meet anyone, like one of the first things I do is I'll show them these photo albums. Like I'd show them how amazing the people there are. I'd tell them about the specific details of this lovely trip to see a people who the world has neglected for decades. It was the most prideful thing I had. And so with that, I knew from that point, it was 2 weeks into this nightmare, and it was like the world was upside down. About in December, I lost my job as a real estate videographer. I'm a licensed drone pilot, and I lost my job 3 days after I lost 27 family members in an airstrike. And so it was almost like, thankfully, I lost my job, because then from that point, I focused directly on the production of this film. Within a month on my own, I took a few sticky notes with my sister that we had, like, I knew I wanted to make a film. I didn't know what I wanted to make or what we were trying to share, because we had so much we wanted to share with the world. And it was, I wanted to share that trip, that my slideshow, my family, the most intimate footage of me dancing and having the best time of my life outside of college.
Yeah.
You got some moves too, by the way. I wanted to say that.
Thank you. I mean, the footage you're seeing there is unlike any experience I can convey. Going to see them after so long, I mean, you see I'm in my grandma's living room every night, and we're just dancing with no electricity, no running water. Like, you have to get a bucket just to take a shower. And some of the experiences will never they'll never leave me, but it was such a sublime, it felt like every piece of dust, every part of what was technically not modern, it felt like the lack of the luxury was actually sacred. And so seeing me dancing in the same space I'm dancing in, and one of the reasons the film came out so urgently, I really had such a belief. I want to tell you guys a secret. I never actually, the first time I watched my film from its entirety was in a screening with 50 people nearby. I hadn't even watched the film I created because I made it so fast. I didn't have the time. I booked a showing for a film I hadn't finished, and I've been touring the exact same film since that screening, January 11, 2024. So within 90 days of the genocide beginning. And
I just say something real quick. Just one of the things that, and I already mentioned the importance of putting a name and a face, but one of the genius pieces of the film for me was the way you began it. Certainly some of the dialogue about, what if they could see what I see and that kind of thing. But that invitation into the family, I mean, I felt like I was sitting with an old friend going through the photo albums or watching the old 8mm film. I remember sitting, we used to have family films, and we'd put on the film and watch the old films of families and the kids playing and that kind of thing. One thing that I did not pick up, and I would have to, because I think I was so deeply impacted in general that I'm missing pieces. So you just mentioned that dancing was happening at a time, when there already was no water, no electricity, and all of that kind of stuff. And it just kind of flowed in with some of the other things. And I felt like I was getting to know your family. So I was caught up in that when the first images of bombs hitting, and it was heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
So I think that was, you started by inviting us into your family in this episode, and that's what happens in the film too. And I think that is genius, because I was so much more impacted because, wait a minute, these are people I know. And that's incredibly powerful. And to add then the layer, I guess, if you will, that this wasn't and some of the things were in that beautiful part of Gaza that, Linda was talking about, and before the destruction, and looks like a beautiful resort area. But this was in a home. Again, I didn't
Get
sense
the oppression.
the full context. And now knowing that, it's even more impactful. So.
Right.
I really appreciate the way that you shared that, because it's, again, a lot in my family, especially, and I think families that are facing this in our community as well, is we have intricacies and like details that are so neglected further regarding the layers of devastation facing and the lack of humanity facing these beautiful souls. I just often, whenever I'm going to my showings and I'm traveling the country often, but even if I'm not, let's say I'm in a city, typically the drive from where, let's say my hotel or the friend's couch I'm sleeping on to get to the venue often is farther than many of my family members have traveled in their entire lives. 25 mile by 5 mile piece of land. And I'm so to begin speaking at a venue and saying, we need to realize, and this is also for those that are sometimes hecklers or people that come out, their drive to come and heckle at an event about Palestine is farther than many of my family members have traveled. I'm talking, some people in their 50s, my aunts and uncles who never have left that land. And not because they didn't want to, but because our airport was destroyed, because, our ability to travel freely has been restricted in every measure.
Speaking of that, can I ask a question, Monear? I had mentioned to Linda before we came on for the episode, I realize after seeing the film how incredibly little I know about Gaza, about any of it. And so when you were talking in the film, there was conversation about the area and the wall, the pictures of the walled off area. I don't know when that came about, or is that part of that 25 by 5, or is that even smaller than that? That was just something completely new to me. I did not realize.
Wow. See, that's the again, one of the biggest challenges. And it's not because it wasn't something that you weren't seeking. I'm telling you, because it's reflected in the lack of things that are not being headlines. Okay, so the media, even the putting of every aspect that some of the most fundamental basics my family has had to suffer through is not even being a footnote. It's literally has been being wiped from existence. Makes it where it's not anyone's, like, it doesn't feel like it's anyone's fault that they might not know some of the things they're facing. And that's why I say it, and I begin in the film saying maybe I didn't show them, because at this point, instead of waiting for someone else to share these stories, I have no choice. If I'm not going to be sharing my family's voice, then it's doing myself, my own soul, a disservice. And so my hope is to enable better understanding, and without the guilt aspect. Like, there's nothing to feel guilty about for not knowing some of this, because it's so kept away from our attention spans and away from our feeds.
I appreciate that. Incredibly gracious of you, Monear. So I do appreciate that. I learned a while back, because I have done a little bit more work in the area of racial justice. I have a Black congregation in the Chicagoland area, and over the years there have been reasons to learn. And one of the things that a member of that community told me when I had asked for help and information was, if you want information, read a book, or find out the information. What I recognize, and I want to name it here, and one of the reasons why I think what you're saying is so gracious is because you live this every day, even though you're in the United States, your family is living this. You go through that. And so to put yourself in a position on a tour where hecklers are coming and you having to relive that trauma is not fair to you. So while I appreciate it and it's so gracious of you to say, it's not really your fault, it's not in the headlines. I want to push back from the outside a little bit for our listeners. Don't wait for someone to come tell you their story. This is a real issue, and we have a responsibility to do some of the hard work ourselves.
I will think
Yes.
one of the greatest, not only realizations I've been developing further as I tour, but when it comes to the weapon that is the camera, the danger of seeing and what that can convey, the difference in what a production of a film can impact it has on audiences, especially over time, which has in many ways with the idea that being film is consumed as entertainment precisely to such a degree that it has convinced and strangled us to not be the heroes in our own story, because the screen says there's a hero that's going to save the day, or there's going to be someone stepping up to do the thing that needs to be done. And I mean, that's the blueprint. Many of these films that try to appeal to our natural human emotions have inadvertently caused within our interactions, both in an interpersonal, in a neighborhood, in a city, in a local level, and as a nation. I think we can be way more empowered by understanding our roles in sharing and strengthening our communities by being so, you have to be stubborn about it. It would be refusing to let the division even have an ounce of weight in what is the right way to approach our life for the future of not just us as people, but as for the future generations that we're going to leave behind. We have to explain ourselves to.
Yeah, and it's a marathon too, but the fact that we can't finish the race right away doesn't excuse us from starting it. So even if we don't feel like we can be the hero in the story, every one of us can be doing something. Even if it's not creating a documentary, every one of us has something to contribute. And I hear what you're saying, that you wish you had not had to create this documentary. I can't imagine that this is, the trajectory you would have chosen. I'm wondering if, what happened in October of 2023, we've kind of talked around this, but is that really what prompted you to sit down and create this documentary, specifically that escalation? I think for a lot of people that might have been sort of a wake-up call to really understand what was happening more. But I'm curious for you if that was sort of what prompted this specific thing. And
it's like a layer of, I was when I was working for this real estate firm, they had a employee of the month letter that they sent out to like thousands of homes in our area. And one of the months was the employee of the month. And one of the questions was like, what is one of your future goals? For some reason, it was like, this was a year and a half before I made the film. I just threw in, it's a life goal of mine to make a film about Gaza and to share the beauty that my family possesses despite the oppression that they're facing. And I wrote this in a letter that went to some of the most conservative town in America. And I forgot about it until I'd already been screening my film. I saw the letter that my mom had it, and I read that quote, and I said, I didn't even remember. I thought I wanted to make a film about Palestine, about my family's experiences, but even physically the restraints within doing such a project, especially when I have family being impacted there, and even the dangers within traveling there to see them at any point, like you don't even consider it. You can't take photos of with your phone when you're traveling through the 18 checkpoints from the Suez Canal all the way to the Rafah border, because you're being tormented by these proxy Egyptian military soldiers just to get into my homeland where my grandma is to visit her. And that's an American citizen family, American like passport, all of that, with even U.S. Embassy permission, still not being able to travel through. And the constant layers that even in the film aren't conveyed, which is a big reason why and I realized as I'm making the film, I can't even convey a fraction of the things that I wish to. And so I had no choice. I had the beauty of my family, and that was the only thing I could share with the world. I will say the tragedy is it would be tragic no matter what kind of people this was happening to. Take any city in America, any place in the world, any third world, we call it the exploited country that's facing tragedy, and it's overwhelming to begin with. But for me, it's like conveying some of the aspects about what they have lived prior and the ways in which they had been constricted prior, and then seeing how much they're still enduring is unlike. It does a few things to me. It displays both one thing that we're missing here in this society is our strength. The blessing I get is that I get to often call my family and see them somehow carrying themselves going. And then I immediately am like, yep, I'm not even doing close to enough. Right? We're going to keep going, conveying the truth to people, because that's the least we can do. When I see that they still are carrying, like it's a constant back and forth of like me gaining some of their energy, but as soon as I engage and share that I'm still moving this forward, their faces are lighting. They light up all the time, to be honest, and it's something that we can really learn from and take in, hopefully. Again, so I want to actually, I don't know if I answered your question, which was that, did I see myself making a film in any capacity before October? I didn't even see it while I was making it. I hated my film the first time I played it. I watched it and I said, I knew it wasn't the film I really wanted to make, because I even had some takes within it that it was just us. We were facing like such grief at the time already, and I'm attempting to convey who this is happening to in a more in-depth way. And as I'm going through my family members and I'm showing, basically I had an iPad set up with my sister who I was sliding and trying to, let's speak about this family member. Let's tell them this story about them. And we're looking in like, how do you convey the love you have for someone in words that will make justice happen for them?
So the young woman that you are interviewing in the beginning and throughout, that's your sister?
Yeah, that's my sister, voice of my film, I call her. But also just, she's actually, and you wanted the tragedy about the urgency in a film like that. I barely gave her anything of an introduction. She's significantly much more, she's a remarkable woman. Truly, she's actually a leading national civil rights attorney for Ben Crump Law. She works on some of the most historic civil rights cases in the country, in the world. I mean, in the country, and she's a powerhouse, but also a big reason why any of this film could even exist. In her, she was a president for SJP, Students for Justice in Palestine, in university. I actually went to the same university as her, so she's 2 years older than me. And I basically followed her footsteps. She was involved with SJP, so I got involved with SJP. Because growing up, like I'm trying to fit in. I played football. I played wide receiver in high school. I had ideas like to be just a videographer, opening up a film studio, doing all these goals I had in mind. Meanwhile, like living half of my identity being from Palestine and knowing what they're facing and reflecting on that difference, was becoming more and more aware like of what that means. Growing up as a kid, I was under the impression that when I went to visit, I visited a lot as a child in Palestine. You have this inkling that my family, I don't know if you can hear the thunder, sorry guys. Oh my goodness. So
That's pretty impressive thunder. I thought either someone is moving furniture there or it's really thundering. Wow.
It is. It is. Usually a lot of background noise is filtered out, so it's got to be pretty powerful.
I will say, like, hearing even thunder, right, makes me reflect on one of the most tragic aspects about visiting Gaza as a kid and hearing the F-16s flying over, dropping the bombs, and the entirety of it. It's not like thunder. Thunder is mercy compared to what the actual experience of a 2,000-pound bomb dropping a few roads down from your grandpa's home. Thunder is mercy from God, comparably. Mm. I think this is part of the experience that the audience we can reflect on, because we
still hear it rumbling.
Yeah, we go a few minutes to a few hours without internet, and it's it's not pretty when that happens.
Right, we have no idea. Yeah.
Well, for like decades, my family was the entire Gaza Strip. Even the most successful families were having maybe 2 to 3 hours of power a day, because they had to share it across the 2.5 million people living there. And even one of the, it's something that, there's a lot of places that don't have internet or like have access to electricity. The people, but they aren't being like restricted from having it, in the sense like we had the structures built, we had electricity. They bombed all the electric plants from even in 2005, 2008, 2014. They target the infrastructure of electricity and the ingenuity of the Palestinian people day in and day out. But
Monear, I don't think a lot of people have the view of Gaza as being, as having been like a modern city in the way that it really has been, and being, I think so many people have a view of it that's so narrow, so short, and just think of it as an area that has always been sort of in destruction, and not realizing like, what was possible, what was there, and what's been taken away. Just, the real, it's devastating.
Yeah, I think that's what sticks with me a lot, just about not just my family, but how gifted the people of Palestine really are. I say this, in even just their steadfastness and their ability to be handling what they're facing without resentment and hatred against anybody is unlike anything I can. As I was touring the film, I'd get more and more just frustrated with the dystopia, like the nightmare between what they're facing versus what I'm getting the privilege to go do, which is to try to share the story. Like my goal, and I might as well bring the listeners in on this, like, which is to get a private jet so I can take my family on a tour across the world as they deserve, and treat my grandma like the royalty she should be facing or experiencing. I want to honor my family with what they deserve, but also just to even fathom that there's Hollywood crates of millionaires and, who do in fact get these private jets, when there's people who have wisdom and lessons and capacity, I think, for society to gain from so many ways that I think deserve it a little more. So we're going to keep going. If you guys know a private jet owner, let me know.
You'll be the first to know if I find one. Monear, as we're listening to the thunder that's kind of rumbling along in the background, it's reminding me of a couple of scenes from the film that really stuck out to me. A couple of one is a call with your grandmother during some bombings. I don't remember if that was in 2023. And then a particular one that was hard for me is a call with your cousin Sarah, I'm not sure how old she is, but she's quite small, and listening to her, experiencing just the bombing in the background. And again, thinking of experiences that most people, at least here in the US, I don't really have even the capacity to wrap our minds around experiencing. Just watching a child go through that was, it was terrible. How important do you think it is that we keep talking about the impact, particularly on children? Just as a parent, I think about that a lot, in particular, how it's impacting children.
It's hard for me to even, I want to ask if you guys noticed, and this is something that I think is so significant about the documentary, was that more than nearly half of the film was just focused on experiences from 2021 and prior. The initial beginning of when we knew the escalation of this genocide was going to happen, as soon as it started happening, the first 2 weeks, our entire family's mentality, like I'm in college, or I was recently graduated college and everything, and was finally having my own stable job as a real estate videographer. And my sister's pursuing her law career. Everything just shifts. We hear what's happening with our family in Palestine now, and it's like the world stopped, because we knew in 2021 how bad it was, and not a single peep came out. The footage from my grandma and hearing the bombs was one of, I think, 17 videos and clips just from the escalation in 2021 and what that experience was like. It was just, we thought that was as bad as it was going to get in 2021. And then as soon as the escalation began, it was a sinking feeling in my family. Like, this is not going to be pretty. Like, whatever. They were like testing and perfecting their capacity to manage the outcries that happened in 2021 and what they were doing to some of the, I think one of the Christian schools was bombed in 2021. I think at Rosemary Children's Christian School. Several other major aspects. And that's what I was trying to share, was like the bombings and like the nightmare was ignored for years. No accountability or nothing. And as the events in 2023 were unfolding, we were under the impression that we were trying to figure out, when was this going to stop? Because it sounds weird, but yeah, we've had atrocities happening in Palestine, many large scale, incursions and attacks against us. Mowing the lawn is what they called it. But all of them lasted short, a month maximum. This one was different. It was clear that they had been hoarding weaponry in a way to use against the people that don't even have an airport. And that's not being a headline. So, but anyways, it's hard to know what's pertinent to speak about, as you can imagine.
So I wanted to ask, there's another piece in the middle of the film where you ponder the question, what is the purpose of the film? One of the things that you lift up, and quoting from the film, is the purpose to show the humanity behind these civilians that are being murdered and destroyed and have been tormented for decades, have been stripped of their dignity and their will to live, been denied their pursuit of happiness day in and day out, have never left their 25-mile by 5-mile plot of land. Those are very powerful descriptive words that I think helped me get a real sense of what the Palestinian people are dealing with on a daily basis. And that doesn't even go into the numbers that fill each of those descriptions. You mentioned that the clips from the film actually come from as early as 2021, before the current circumstances and war that's going on there. I'm wondering how your family continues to be impacted. There's a moment also in the film where your sister has just gotten news of the bombing of your aunt's home and the loss of 15 family members. These are just incredibly, it's one thing when you're telling a story, but the vulnerability that in that moment that really drove home the idea of the purpose. And I just wonder. So my question, I guess, is as this continues to happen, take place on a day-to-day basis, the restrictions, there's so much, there's just so much in the film. How is it continuing to affect your family and those that they are in daily interactions with as this continues to go on?
It's a never-ending, evolving scale of exhaustion, yet determination in reality being. I've been documenting nearly everything that I've, not only the tour of my screenings of this film, but the live calls with my family and the constant. I have a desire to share so much more in depth about every aspect that I know is being neglected by any media out there in a personal way that I have been honored to even possess, which is the stories that they are facing. And in witnessing and speaking to them like on a daily basis, there's a battle internally with wanting to give them more than I'm capable of in terms of what they deserve, and a constant. I had recently, for example, a live call with my cousin Moody, who he does all of my initiatives on the ground and help with. Such a beautiful soul. He actually. He's like my doppelganger in Gaza. I call him my twin. He looks just like me. Everyone, you'll see me on the live call and we look exactly the same. He does all my live calls when I do my events and everything. And he's just but recently, it was 3 days ago, there was like a massive airstrike that almost killed one of our dear friends and a journalist, his name is Said, he's the most beautiful guy. He's such a fun man, and I remember he used to work at our family bakery that we had opened, but he was almost killed. He broke his arm from an airstrike that he was covering because they hit it more than once, the same location. It was a woodworking shop that was people were going to get lumber and access to cutting wood, and he called me the next day, my cousin, and he usually calls me when he's in his car, like about to go do a initiative or help with some, he helps the tents around the camps. He was in his room this time, and I never seen him so, I think, almost feeling just not just exhausted, but just words I can't describe, of like a sinkingness. And my whole idea and what we've been helping each other through is like, somehow they still are still navigating, giving us wisdom and blessings. And I'm always returning the favor, but this one was more like, I could just tell he's like, the world doesn't feel what we're feeling. Like basically, he can't process how neglected he feels, like the people feel. Hearing the bombings and knowing that after so long, we're over 1,000 days into this, and there's actually, like, there's no reason for tents and for these civilians to be being bombed. There's none. There's no justification. Absolutely none. And so he's, for the first time in almost imagine, I would have said that in the first 2 weeks, like, if I survive. Like, the first time he said to me, I was saying, I'm inviting him to come. I was like, I'm taking care of I lost my brother recently, and I've been having to take care of his Arabian horse farm, and I was like, trying to invite him, hey, I'm setting up the farm, so when you get here, it's going to be ready. Like trying to excite him. And he goes, if I survive, usually he'd be so excited to be like, inshallah, yeah, it's happening. God willing, we'll see you, like, but this one was just like, yeah. And that's happened 100, 200, 300 times with like other cousins and family members in different ways. I've video chats that just, I can't even share. Like, I have stuff I can't even convey to audiences because it's just like so dramatically painful, of like my grandpa's home and what it was like when it was being bombed. And
so, just to be clear, you're talking about being 1,000 days in. This is not over, right? I mean, this is still an ongoing issue. I asked that question because, as most of our listeners would be aware, the news cycle in the U.S. changes so quickly, and we've been so focused, or I say the news has been so focused for months now on what's going on in Iran, and it's almost as if there's no news. I mean, you have to dig to find stories about what's happening to the Palestinian people and in the Gaza Strip. So I just want to be clear, this is not over, right?
Today, not just today, but as I said 2 days ago, and as well today, I get videos from my cousin who is at the hospital. Yeah, a little girl was in half because of our tax dollars. We're getting nonstop footage, and the way in which they're doing it is so evidence of neglect. It's against our own humanity they're doing this. They're enabling and proceeding and offending our own souls, by this destruction. So, but yeah, no, not only has it's not over, I think the main aspect is still missing, is that our stories were not being conveyed. We have to at least explain who we are and what is happening to us. And we have to continue, hopefully, sharing this wisdom and strength of these people, because if they can be strong, then we can build a much better place here. I want to leave the audience with some major point of how we should proceed in times of difficulty or crisis.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure our listeners hear very clearly.
It's not over.
This is not over because our news cycle isn't covering it.
Beyond it not being over, we need to realize there's mechanisms in place that enabled us to not have the knowledge or the information we should be possessing. And again, I am saying that because we can learn at least one aspect that's really important, which is the people of Palestine are showing us how to be there for each other, how to build strength within our. Think about something that they have been doing. They've been digging each other out of the rubble with their hands while hungry, without being able to wash or take care of themselves. Strangers are digging strangers out of the rubble while the F-16s are still flying above them, and navigating some of the most horrifying experiences, and still somehow being grateful and saying alhamdulillah, God is with us. It's profound beyond measure, but they're not like these. I want us also to reflect, they're not these ephemeral mystical beings in another world or another planet. They're a plane ride away. They're a flight away from us. They are on this planet with us. They are facing a nightmare that should be in the worst sci-fi dystopian film, an unbelievable reality that wouldn't in any film plot line be. It would be even too dramatic for one of those dystopian films, to be honest. Mm-hmm. It is too clear and evident of the horrors that are happening to them, but that's not being shown. So again, I hope that this film can at least get us to seek out what we need to see.
And I think those of us who are professing to follow Jesus have a responsibility to tell the truth about the situation, and even when it's hidden from us. I think part of the community of Christ, we call ourselves a prophetic people, and part of that responsibility is just to continually be revealing what's intentionally being hidden, and that's so important. We not lose sight of the responsibility to bear witness.
And Isa radiallahu anh, which he's one of the most he's the most quoted prophet in the Quran. We have an entire chapter in the Quran dedicated to Jesus, son of Mary. So Maryam, alayhi salam, is our most revered woman in our faith. Our faiths are from one and the same.
That's right.
We call Jesus in Arabic is Isa, actually, and we believe that God's revelation teaches us the truth. It warns us against wrong and gives us glad tidings to the righteous. An ungrateful man holds up his heart and fails to see how all nature points to God and to the hereafter. He but seeks petty issues, forgetting the cause of causes. Not all the wisdom of man can produce, not like the message which comes from God. As the light that leads and the mercy that forgives, who then but will humble himself before God, seeking his light and his voice? And may we all do that together. Continue.
Thank you. Thank you, Monear.
Of course. Thank you. I feel like we could do a few more episodes. So,
We definitely could.
There's definitely enough here. We haven't even really begun to dig in deep at all, but I want to make sure we have some time to talk about where to see the film, how to see the film, the tour, the things you've got coming up.
Of course. So I have my website, GazaIsOurHome.com, where you can both support my touring efforts as well as book your own screening. So GazaIsOurHome.com. And there's donate links there. I am available to receive tax-deductible donations. Any support, monthly support, goes the longest for me because I have to basically coordinate my tour around the rare speaking fee or the rare logistic support. And so having just a little bit of cushion allows me to not only, I'm now expanding my team efforts so I can begin to convey the stories that I've been in mid-production for, along with some very unique, my next feature project that I'm hoping to get a full production support on studio, which I want to reference. Most high-end big productions cost roughly $10,000 a day starting rates, and I'm not paying that. But my idea is to I do have some really a good network of filmmakers that I know of. I just need to do some coordinating to really take on my next effort, which I don't know if you saw, but I was showing you when you mentioned the 8mm film. This is my dad's camcorder. From many of the memories me and my sister were speaking about are inside the footage that I recently recovered, which will be the basis of my next film I am hoping to release. But again, I'm managing trying to do this tour this for the fall and winter semesters. So any faculty or connections to faculty go a long way. If you are interested in getting involved, you can follow me on Instagram as well. And that's where most of my updated posts will be, on monear.shaer. So just my name, monear.shaer, SHAER. And I'm open to coordinating. Even if you just DM me and want to host a screening, you can message me directly. But we're working on making the website. The website's the place to have all of my extra work as well. Monear at GazaIsOurHome.com or support at GazaIsOurHome.com is how you can reach us.
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. I just didn't want to miss the chance to share that you're going to be with us at the Peace Forum coming up in October in Independence. And you have one of the breakout sessions. Is that right?
Yes, I'm so excited
That will
about
be
myself.
great.
I actually, I didn't mention this but my first church screening, like that I consider being it was a full congregation, was at the Community of Christ at Walnut Gardens, and it was amazing. And that was such a eye-opening experience, seeing like the purpose of your and following that purpose through your profession for pursuing peace. This is Stacy gave this to me, the president.
Preparation,
And it was so nice of them. I went and took a tour of the temple, and it was unlike anything. I didn't realize. I remember FaceTiming my mom. I was like, "That's where the United Nations was formed, right next to the temple." And I was like, "That's why. That's so significant that I'm here." This is, the grace and the guidance of God that's gotten me to even get that experience was unlike any synchronicity you can imagine. Like, that was all Him. And I can tell just from where it's leading and the people I'm meeting, thanks to you. I'm going back to Kansas City for not only the Peace Forum, thankfully, but also the upcoming, and this is even sooner, August 7th, I'll be presenting my film at the Veterans for Peace National Convention, and I'll be there the whole weekend. I will also likely be having Chris Smalls join me for my post-film discussion. Chris Smalls, the Amazon Union labor organizer and amazing activist. So it's going to be a really powerful weekend in Kansas City at the Veterans for Peace National Convention. Come see me and come book your days for my upcoming tour. Also, if any tour managers are listening here, want to offer some of your services, reach out to me, help me unpack my brain. Yeah, my next plans. Thank you.
Well, again, there's so much that we could spend our time talking about. It's been just a real pleasure to be with you here at Monear. And so I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule and also just the comfortable way and vulnerable way that you share and letting us in to your family. I think that is an incredible impact, has so much potential to create transformation. I hope that it will, and I know that I will continue to push to get folks to see the film and to, with the help of folks like Linda in our tradition, who has gotten a passion for this, going to the congregations for Middle East peace and getting to meet people like you, and then sharing that with me. Incredible. I mean, I could just go on and on. I am so thankful and humbled to be in your presence, because the work and I mean, just the way that you have put yourself in a vulnerable place so that we might learn is such great value. So thank you for that and for being here today.
thank you, Blake. I'm so grateful, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we can develop this further. I hope everyone, if you're watching this, share this podcast. Maybe this might help get people interested in now seeking out my film as well. And it means the world. Just this is hopefully you feel like this is our family story. God willing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you,
Absolutely. And thanks, Linda, for inviting me in to sit in on this and co-host together in this conversation. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you for taking time to be with us. As always, we know that you have plenty of places where you can be. So anytime you take time to be with us and hear the stories that we are getting to tell here at Faith Unfiltered, we appreciate. You've been listening to Grounds for Peace and our guest, Monear Shaer. And I just hope that you will pick up on this and take the opportunity to see the film, perhaps host a showing. We'll put all that information in the show notes here. And thanks for being here. Go out and make the world a better place.